Hello everyone, welcome to my Fara carrier guide. Today we're going to talk about the most recently up-to-date Graf Zeppelin. So we're going to whip through this real fast, and then in a follow-up video we're actually going to do some replays or highlights of me playing the Zeppelin to showcase. So there are two new module setups for this Graf Zeppelin. We have 121 and we have 203. Now 121 means we have one fighter wave, assuming air supremacy with the captain, one fighter wave that has 9 fighter planes. It's very powerful on the strafe, limited ammunition, only 3 strafes. It's going to have a difficulty with endurance. Only 16 planes in the hangar capacity. So the first wave of 9 that takes off means you now have 7 planes left over. It's going to be very difficult to struggle, through the long game if you take any losses. In terms of the torpedo bombers, they are very powerful. They have a cross-wave drop pattern. That's one at the front, 3 on the line, 1 in the rear. You're able to cross-drop, you're able to drop in smoke. The drop range is only 2 kilometers. You get the choice between 2 different types of torpedo itself. So you can have a normal, that attacks everything, or you can have deep water, which removes the ability to hit destroyers, but increases the amount of chance that you can cause to do flooding. Now you can I personally would take the normal torpedo bomber, so you can attack everything, including destroyers, and then just use signals to boost up your flooding chance. But the fact is, the torpedoes do such high alpha damage that I would almost always go with the normal torpedoes, so I can hit any target in the game, rather than bottlenecking myself away from destroyers, who could be a problem. Because it's not about the ship's secondaries and its hydro, which is gimmicky, and then being attacked by a ship. It's more about influencing the game by going after a destroyer, perhaps on the other side of the map, that you need to somehow inconvenience. And if you don't have the torpedo bombers to do that, then what are you doing? Every other carrier can. In terms of dive bombers, the 121 dive bomber is a wave of 9, so it goes up to 10 with air supremacy. The 203, the waves are of 5, so they go up to 6 with air supremacy, and that makes them 18, so it's 18 versus 10. The dive bombers HE do reasonable HE splash damage with a circle drop pattern, but the alpha is nothing compared to the armor-piercing dive bombs of the German line, which is slightly different from the American ones. They've got better penetration mechanics, they do way more damage, they can attack far more ships and do lots of damage, but it's not consistent, and that's what really bugs me. You can attack a Shikaku, for example, do no damage, attack a Shikaku again, do all the damage. You can attack a tier 10 Montana American battleship and do huge damage. We're talking like 20-30k from like 6 bombs. Or you can go after a Conqueror, dive bomb him, same number of bomb hits, you do 5-6k damage. So there's not a consistency in that. You drop the dive bomb on one target, it does a lot. You drop the dive bomb on another target, it doesn't do any damage. So you're going to have to have a cheat sheet next to you saying, oh, I want to attack this Edinburgh for this British light cruiser. Oh yes, it's a good target, it does take good damage. And that's kind of frustrating, because it's like a bomb that's a niche target that can only go on selective ships, whereas the torpedo bomber can go after everything. Plus with the torpedo bomber, you can look at the torpedo per damage reduction and you can calculate how much I'll probably do to the ships. For example, a Japanese Ismo tier 9 battleship has really good bulge protection, so I'm going to attack him, but I know I'm not going to do a huge amount of damage. Whereas if I was to go after, for example, the American Ranger, which is a tier 7 carrier, although you would never see that in the Zepplin, this is only for experimental purpose only, you would see that the Ranger has no bulge protection and it will take huge amounts of damage. At least that's understandable. But with the dive bombers, there's no real mechanic to explain why you do so much damage to this ship and not a lot to the other ship on the same tier, the same class, that type of stuff. In terms of plane reserves, as we said, the 121 has 16 fighters. Then it has, I believe, if we look up over here on our little brief down, the 121 has 16 fighter planes in total. It has 27 torpedo bombers and 29 dive bombers. The 203 has 24 fighters, so that's actually pretty good. It has 48 dive bombers, because it's the only other plane that it has. So in terms of plane reserves, it has 72 planes compared to, for example, the Enterprise's 96 or something along those lines. I'll come back here. And it means it suffers. It's going to suffer in kind of combat battles. In terms of how good is this ship, what is its intended purpose? Well, it's a light fighter, heavy strike. That's the way Wargaming wants to make this ship. There are many other ways to balance the ship, but this is the way Wargaming wants to go. So with the 121, it's very good in randoms. Unless there's a good enemy carrier at tier 8 who's going to try and lock you out, you're going to do huge amounts of damage. The torpedo bombers are fantastic. The dive bomber does insane damage to certain ships, and if you go 203, you can have better fire control, and your dive bombers, provided matchmaking is generous to you and given you targets that your dive bombers are good against, you will easily get 100 to 200k damage from simply left clicking on the target and then just sort of microing your fires a little bit. And personally, I don't see that as a good step forward for the carrier. I'd rather see more micro involved and skill being rewarded, but that's the way it is. Is it good against in randoms? Absolutely. Phenomenal in randoms. Is it good in ranked or if tier 8 competitive was come back? Absolutely not. It's absolutely terrible for ranked and competitive. And we just focus purely on ranked here. The reason is the 121 only has 16 fighters. The Enterprise is currently the king of ranked because it has those huge fighter reserves, giving it 4+ waves of fighters compared to the Shikaku's 2.5, and the Zeppelin's 1 and a bit or 2 and a bit if you go with the 203. So the Enterprise is going to get air control, dominate air control, and it can sacrifice fighters to scout. Zeppelin can't sacrifice fighters to scout at all. Enterprise has 6 plane waves, whereas Zeppelin's 5. It can sacrifice some plane waves or the dive bombers or whatever to do the scouting role. Shikaku do the scouting role. Zeppelin simply can't do that. You have to either bomb or nothing at all. So if you scout, you're severely reducing your ability to influence the game. And then if you take 121, you're really weak on the fighters. You can't really, you can sort of cross-drop the destroyers, or you can go after the battleship if they're isolated, but you don't have the endurance for the fighters. And the 203, you can sort of fighter endurance to an extent, but your dive bombers can't realistically do anything to the enemy destroyers, and you're only going after certain targets, and the team will be clumped up, and they'll know who the vulnerable targets if you only got dive bombers. Now, that's not to say against bad teams you won't perform well, but against good teams it's going to suffer. So, it's great for randoms, it's bad for ranked, and competitive you wouldn't touch it either, unfortunately. Is this how I would have balanced the ship? Not really, no. I would have done it differently, but this is the way wargaming is going to go. This is the way the ship is probably going to be released, and that's what we're going to have to take at it. Small other caveats. Its AA is reasonably good. It's got good long-range AA. If you take a captain with AFT and the AA signal flag, you can get your secondaries up to 7.9 kilometers. The secondaries are incredibly accurate, and they will fire out, and they're very spectacular to watch. But this is a carrier first, not a battle carrier. We're not charging into the cap unless we're absolutely desperate. So if something chases after you, yeah, you can use your secondaries. If something tries to torp you, you do have Hydro. I know this is really stupid and I don't want to touch upon this that much, but ultimately it has Hydro that goes 4.2 kilometers on ship detection, 2.97 on torpedo detection. The hilarity of pushing a destroyer in a smoke and then secondarying them down is cute, but that is not what a carrier is. It is not a cruiser that attacks or pushes. It is a carrier. To charge up that far forward invites deletion. And I can see people buying the ship to do that and then dying, and because the carrier is so influential in the current game, for your team, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer really badly. And your team is probably going to hate you, so you don't want to do that. So how good is the secondaries in the Hydro? It's gimmick. It's pure simple, it's a gimmick. The AA is good. The hull detection, if you take the concealment modification and you take concealment X with the captain, is reasonably good. In terms of the captain skills, I'll cut this fairly quick now because we want to go into a battle and I'll show in a different video. But I'm experimenting with the kind of the captain setups. The only thing that may change is adrenaline rush for torpedo acceleration. Otherwise, the planes load very quickly, which is why we don't take torpedo armor and expertise. We're taking basic fire training. We've got advanced fire training to basically push out our long-range AA and our mid-range AA, so our defensive fire trigger sooner, plus we're pushing out our secondaries, because that's kind of cool. You don't need to take manual fire control for secondary armament because there's no point. It's already super duper accurate, so this isn't necessary. So that's the 19-point captain I have at the moment. And it works really well. You need to take dogfighting expert, and you want to buff up the plane health and servicing time. You definitely want air supremacy, so you get the extra fire plane, the extra dive bomber, that type of stuff. And otherwise, it's pretty much what it is. Right. Thank you for watching. I'm going to end this video now. Why don't you click the next video on YouTube, and that's where we actually go into a battle and we use it right away. All right.